Remember, gamers, we're trying to pump those numbers up, so don't forget to sub. We're trying to hit 200K by the end of the year. I appreciate all the support and for watching these videos. Let's get into it. All right, gamers, the epic raid contest is over and you're probably doing normal mode. And what are your thoughts on the raid? Well, I had a blast. I want to thank everyone that came to the stream on Saturday and just watched us do the watch party. It was great to just watch teams compete and kind of just sit back and go, man, I'm glad I'm not in there wiping on Hydra because, man, that encounter sucked. It was definitely the worst encounter of the contest. For me, it was nice to just sit there, watch teams compete. We had a lot of fun just watching 5-6 different teams, turning on Evan's stream and see if they're watching the same teams that I was. Kind of just celebrate all the teams neck and neck. Final boss. We were trying to figure out the mechanics, but you know, those top teams had to have those comms muted because it was a race. I do think the raid should have been promoted more because it actually was really cool that they added a new final boss. I mean, it was a different variant. The damage checks were there, and missing mechanics early on in that final boss phase is literally what help teams clear. So I kind of just wanted to break down my thoughts. Thank you guys for showing up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed me doing that watch party. There's a lot of positive feedback. First off, let's congratulate Assault and his team getting world's first. Adding Vendetta to that team is insane. He's a great player, one of the best PvE players that I've seen over the years. And here's their final stand here. I mean, they were just locked in. Damage was insane. They hit that last extend and boom, there you go. Also, we thought it was a funny meme that Assault pretty much said he didn't throw this time because in Desert Perpetual normal, he swapped a wrong loadout and ended up wiping on the final stand of normal. So that might have cost them the world's first finish. I don't know if a team finished before them. I actually think it was costing them the final stand, but hey, when nerves are racking and you know you're kind of nervous, stuff like that happens. But they locked it in, so congratulations to them. When I went in, so what we did was, hey, we're just like me and my raid team, PC and Plane. We didn't have three other players to play with, so I was just like, hey, you know what? We're gonna come back the next day. We're gonna clear it. What I did was I turned the stream on Sunday, did my normal clear, and then after we figured out the mechanics and the changes, we went in and it took about 5.5 hours to do the full contest clear. But there was some added mechanics and we did skip them, so there's no shame here. I got the emblem the same way, but there was a way for you to kind of like cheese certain encounters. You could just load in and kill Hobgoblin, and then you could reset the instance and go kill Hydra, and then reset the instance and go kill Wyvern, but you needed a boss checkpoint. So I know a lot of teams did that once they figured it out. The cool mechanic that Bungie did was when you were in the epic raid and you beat the Hobgoblin first, you would take that Hobgoblin's laser and bring it to the next encounter. Same thing like detains from Hydra, which was just very annoying. And then the Wyvern had the, you know, the bounce mechanic where you could get suspended and get launched into the air. So adding those together was definitely pain. And the final boss was just insane and had everything, all three bosses. I think with this epic raid, it's cool that they did a race for it, even though, you know, some people are like, oh, it's a silver belt. But I really think that they did a good job with adding a new boss at the end and making that damage check. Damage really wasn't bad. You do have to remember that the normal contest when Desert Perpetual launched, it was bugged. It was like -50. I don't know the actual delta, but damage wasn't there. There was a lot of bugs, raid flags, and you know, it really triggered teams to just not get the clear. When you're doing this epic raid, you're like, man, like we know the mechanics already. We just have to figure out the changes. And with, you know, I can go over the changes right now. When you're at Hobgoblin, there was colors, you know, you had to jump through the rings, find out what colors was on the portals 1 through 5 and kind of figure out a way to make sure that you were fast enough to get the damage. But then when you get the damage, you realize that the boss only stays there for so long. And then he teleports up on the platforms and just stays up there. So you got to do long range, and people were using like Withering Gaze to weaken, and then the final stand comes and oh my god, there's copies everywhere, and it was very hectic. But Hobgoblin overall, I thought it was a really good encounter. Thank god that the Hydras and the Wyverns weren't really too beefy and damage was there. Moving on to Wyvern, I mean, finding out that the Minotaurs were color coordinated with the with the Chronons, when you're shooting the totems on Wyvern, you could have the absolute, the constant, or the cyclical buff, but then you realize that there was towers that you had to shoot, because I went to go shoot one, it was immune, and I'm like, oh wait, we have to go shoot the right one. So, you know, that little hiccup was cool, but overall it was an easy 2-phase. Every single boss was like a good 2-phase on contest, but it was definitely a good shakeup. But being suspended by Wyvern was definitely a troll. Now you go to Hydra, and oh my god, the reason I don't like Hydra so much is because it detains. So when you're in the inside rooms, you have to call out 2 eyes, and then the people on the outside have to shoot the 2 eyes on the outside that they see, and then they'll give you the call. But the thing is, those calls have to go to the opposite team. So like if I was on right side, my guy outside would confirm my call and to relay it to the left side. That means 4 people need to be on comms at all times, and you need to make sure that you're not mishearing anyone. And then after you shoot the eyeballs, these detains pop out, and while you're in that room, you're trying to not die. You got Cyclopses spawning, detains, boss is shooting you, you're panicking. It was crazy. But the one thing I didn't like is if one person messed up an eye, you reset. And I just feel like that's too punishing. The shields being around the boss and you being able to move, and then there's a laser above them. Like, oh boy. I think that's the encounter that everybody just hated. If you didn't clear that encounter, I understand. Final boss, amazing. Cool mechanics, mini games, DPS check. I mean, everything was there. Final stand mechanics. I mean, that's how a raid should be. Now let's talk about how you could just keep rallying on the final boss. That's what confused people. People were like, why are you hitting 3 or 4, rally flags on the final boss? And this comes to the not swap mechanic. Now, Bungie said that they implemented not swap on this raid to kind of make it an even playing field. But I don't know about you guys, but I had 2 swap loadouts for each encounter. One did scav and one did surges. So technically you're still in your menu. And then the final boss, I had like 4 or 5 different loadouts because you were using different DPS strats for each boss. But it kind of takes away the whole strategy of the encounter, because you're just like, hey, I could dump all my ammo and get it back. Now, I've said this on streams multiple times. Always asking your warlocks to mark enemies with the Cenotaph helmet and hit finishers is kind of annoying, but it is part of a day 1 raid strategy. Taking that away and making it easy for us to keep rallying is kind of a weird playbook that we haven't seen in a raid ever, but it was cool to see Bungie implement something. I just don't think not swap is needed. I think you should still be able to loadout swap because it does come into a strategy for you and your team. But overall, not bad. Now let's talk about the loot. This is where the communities kind of split off, because they're like, well, what's the point of doing the epic raid? What's the loot? So I'm going to pull up the collections here and kind of go over that. In the Desert Perpetual, you're going to get this shotgun, this auto rifle that is a healing frame, and it does have Withering Gaze, and then you have the GL. These 3 you unlock from doing the epic raid variant. So once you unlock them, you can just do a 3 feet epic raid, and once you get to the final boss, you can buy a tier 5 variant if you've unlocked it. So pretty much that's all that is worth in the replayability of the epic raid, right? Get the 3 weapons. If you like them, get a tier 5 variant and call it a day. It's kind of just like this raid sniper here. This is that you get from the raid as well. I got a tier 5, I got it with bait and switch, and I got it with elemental honing and rewind. I feel like I'm good. That weapon's off my checklist. We're done. But today I was running the feats with the epic raid, and I realized it's not that bad. Like, we got up to 3 feats. We did the token limit, phase limit, and that's how we unlocked our 3 feats. So we did the phase limit and the token limit. Everything's the same. You still get 3 tokens per encounter, but with the phase limit, there's actually a 15-minute timer on the final boss. And what you're seeing here is we just cooked the boss before the harpy phase damage, because there's technically 4 times you can damage the boss. There's the 2 lower levels, the mid harpy, and then the final. What we did is we're just like, hey, cutthroat's not on, so we're just going to nuke the boss, and with good loadouts, it's free. Now, when you add cutthroat to this, you're now on a 4 feet, but you're gonna have to 2-phase Hydra, and we don't want to do that. So I think comfortably for farming, you're going to put on powerful combatants. Even though Banes are very annoying, running phase limit battalions and token limit, you're still going to be able to 1-phase every single boss, and I think that's going to be your farming 3 feet epic raid farm. Now remember, you could go do normal mode every week and do a 5 feet and get double tier 5 drops. So I think a lot of people will do that, but everything I just said, 3 feet epic, 5 feet normal, what teams are doing that? Because LFG is such a nightmare. And I think Bungie's running into a big problem with that right now. Showing you guys what the raid set does for the epic raid. This is the new set. The 2-piece picking up ammo, reload stowed special weapons from reserves. I feel like you don't need this because it's pointless. Now the 4-piece dealing super damage, you get the health and the shields regenerate over time. That could be good for low mans and flawless challenges, but I don't see the worth worth of me grinding the tier 5 armor set for that much pain. And the reason why I say it's worthless is because you have rewind on your mint. I mean, pretty much mint in year tide. These are the mountaintop recluse of today's age. You're never going to take them off. It was used in every single encounter. Finality's auger meta is very boring in this raid, and that's what brings me to my next topic. The raid meta is just kind of boring. You're just using these two weapons, and now for some reason, with Bungie changing how super generation worked with Outbreak, pretty much Titans now and hunters can just use year tide, or you can use antidate with rewind target lock and peacekeepers on, and hunters can just run 3-shot golden gun and they get super regen energy like crazy from a submachine gun. So them taking away the outbreak meta that we had in the normal raid, we just switched to a different weapon. Kind of sucks that Bungie kind of fell into that trap. Finality's auger being meta is definitely annoying because this is a rare weapon that people might not have, or the cattle ore, and you'd have to go do the Sunder Doctrine quest. So overall, I think Bungie should have thought a little better on the meta, because it does seem like this raid is a LFG nightmare. A lot of people saying they want to do the raid, but they don't have people to do it with. A lot of raid teachers aren't really teaching raids anymore. You know, me, I try, like I want to do more streams where I'm teaching raids, but people have to learn mechanics now. People have to use comms. And if you go do an LFG raid, most of them don't want to use comms. They just want to do ad clear. And that's the problem with raiding right now. Back in the day when I did Fatebringer helps, if you guys watch my content, we had to sweat for those Master Templar clears because the meta was really rough. It got easier as the years went on. I mean, you can go do a Master Templar checkpoint now and just ruin it. With the raid being so mechanical heavy now, people are struggling to find teammates. I even ran into that problem this year myself. But I really think that Bungie needs to add more incentives to do the harder content, especially in a feat raid. Right now, if you go run the normal version of the epic raid, everything just gets toast. You just melt everything. Their design is, hey, go into your portal, go into the raid and add all these feats and you'll get juicy loot. But the thing is, most teams can't do this. So you're pretty much locking out some of the percentage of the community that just feels like the risk and reward isn't worth it. So I really think, since this is a new system, got bad feedback, they should do something about it and make it more incentivized. Now you could do cool things like ornaments. You could put a full ornament set on your character because you did so much endgame, or you beat the raid so many times, or you did some feats. You can do a certain glow on your head, or unlock a certain shader for your weapons, or better stat bonuses for the armor. I mean, the list goes on. Again, I'm not really good at thinking about good ideas for this game because it's so hard to give a good idea for what's good for Destiny 2 at the moment, because my opinion could only matter to a certain percentage of players, or the opposite, they might not like it. But overall, I think Bungie should have just promoted this raid more, because if they would have just told people, like I thought about this today on stream, if they just showed a trailer of all 3 bosses from the normal mode getting killed, and then all of a sudden the screen goes black and they go, but wait, there's more, and they just showed a little teaser of the final boss arena and said, the challenge awaits, more people would have been like, oh man. But the problem is that the data miners went into the API and seen that there was only 4 encounters. That went all over Twitter, and people were like, they really didn't add anything new. But we didn't know that. So when the raid launched and people saw that there was a new boss, everyone was like, oh man, they actually did it. So it's like, I feel like their marketing team kind of threw there. I want to see Endgame do better in this game. I just want to see the game do better. I know we're in a rough spot. I know that I upload videos and I'm telling people, hey, we're complaining about this. Hey, it's just because I care. I don't plan on quitting anytime soon. Someone's got to be here to speak up for everybody, and someone's got to be here to keep complaining about the problems. But man, bring back the fun in Endgame. That's all they need to do. Our number one goal for Edge of Fate was we need replayability. And they just chose to have us go in solo ops, and they missed the mark. Can they bring it back? Who knows? But I can tell you guys right now, Renegades is going to have a dungeon. That might not be enough to hype the community up, but there is going to be a phase in around March, kind of when Into the Light was. Right of the 9 they chose last year wasn't the right idea. Pantheon was a great idea, so we could see like a Pantheon 2.0 in March. Maybe not, but hopefully they're listening. If not, things are gonna get rough. Stuff happens. So overall, I just wanted to give you guys my breakdown of the raid. I'm gonna try and keep playing the raid on stream, help people with it as much as I can, or maybe you just watching the stream and seeing how we're doing it could help you out in your fire team learn stuff. Appreciate you guys watching these videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.